Good morning, May. What a pleasure to be with you today to discuss in the Here Today podcast some of the things about the 21st century technology, artificial intelligence, and how it affects us all. And it is an honor and a pleasure to have someone like you, a life coach, to give us a little bit of an introduction. What called you to be a life coach? And why are you here now?
Well, it's so interesting. Before we started recording, we were talking and having this conversation, and it's such an organic way that I, came into coaching. But very early in my life, as a young girl, I recognized that I really love people. I love connecting to people. But as a young girl, I was extremely shy. So imagine those two don't go well together, right?
Yes.
On one side, I want to really connect with people and I'm just so observant. But I was too shy at that time. As I grew into my teenagehood, years, I became a little bit more confident in myself and, had more of that ability and really began to share with my friends. I mean, very organically, not trying to be anything other than be a support to my friends. And I was always the ear that would be listening to the challenges in their lives and pray that I offered good counsel back then. Who knows? But it's always been my delight to help people. And when I was in high school, my sociology teacher, I guess, saw that in me, and she pulled me aside one day and she says, I see how you are with your friends. I think you would really enjoy a career in psychology. So off to college I went, and that was my goal, to study psychology and go into that field. And but I quickly realized that although I loved the aspect of psychology and everything that I was learning about human behavior and dynamics, I knew that working in trauma and those types of levels of psychology wasn't going to be suiting my constitution. I'm a highly sensitive person, very empathic. And although that's sweet and wonderful, it also comes with its challenges.
Yes.
And so, over the last 31 years, I've done, multiple things in the realm of helping women. But in the last 15 years, life coaching has really been my calling. And I discovered that because I realized here's a way of doing life in service of women that helps them, like your podcast says, from here to there, right? Yeah. It's really a bridge to help them get from where they are to where they want to be, whether that's in life, whether that's in business, in their relationships. Because a woman plays multiple roles. She's not just one role, right? She doesn't just do one thing in her life. And so who she is, her totality of who she is, touches all of those relationships. And so therefore, it's a real delight for me to work with women in their ongoing goals and just have a ringside seat to the transformations in their lives. It's super powerful.
I know, it sure is. May and I have some roots together. Her family is from Cuba, and I am from Cuba. I came to the United States in 1970, worked hard, studied hard, went to college, and started my career as a computer scientist for NASA in the Space Shuttle program. And from there, I became an international technology expert and a business executive. And in this season of my life, my goal is to give back all my experience to women and startup companies in the journey of the 21st century, which is very, very different and interesting. So, May, tell us how working with Dr. Bagnell has helped people, working with him and you together have helped people see their future in a new light.
Yeah.
What are some ingredients?
Ooh, ingredients. I love cooking. Let's come up with some ingredients. Well, for those of you that are listening and they don't know me yet, my husband's a functional neurologist. We have a center in South Florida, Bagnell Brain Center. And our goal at Bagnell Brain Center is to identify underlying root cause issues that are happening in the neurology of our patients, could also be in the metabolic state of our patients. We do everything from a holistic standpoint, but it's steeped in clinical neuroscience. So there's so much data, there's so much science, which I know Marilyn appreciates and loves. And we use that science, right? The more that God gives us an opening to understand how he's fashioned us and how he's created this human body and brain, the more we understand, the more we can apply. So our goal is to understand, okay, what's hindering an individual from living the most optimal life they could live, right? Feeling better, of course, but not just feeling better, being better, right? Like their whole constitution. And so we're always tirelessly in the research. We're always looking at new and innovative ways that we can effectively change the plasticity of a person's neurology, right? Their brain. It's a field called neuroplasticity. And then also, if the metabolic system of a patient is not balanced, like hormones and blood serum levels, and are we sensitive to food, certain things. These are all things that are important to look at because they affect how the brain works, right? The brain, gut, brain. So if I were to say some ingredients on like how this affects people, we initially do the assessment so that we can understand with great precision what's going on in the person's brain and body. And then we create a protocol around how to help transform and shift those challenges, those hindrances, to create a more optimal state, right? So, we're looking for any deficiencies, we're looking for any, toxicities, but we're also looking for challenges that are affecting the brain. And then prayerfully, with the application of these things, the patient begins, or the client begins to start to transform. Some people, that transformation is very quick. For others, it takes a little bit longer, but there's so much, it's worth waiting, right? It's worth the wait. I always tell people, especially when it feels like the transformation is taking longer, it's worth the wait, because if we don't keep going in this new direction, what are our options? We're still stuck with where we are, right? So just like coaching, right? We want a transformation in our lives, but we're frustrated because it's not going fast enough. And then we're like, I give up. I can't do this anymore. Like, well, stay where you are if you don't keep going, right? So learning to be where we are is such a tool, right? Learning to be present where we are, not too far in the past, not too far ahead in the future, really present where we are, restores our joy. And it gives us a better feeling of like, this is okay. I'm okay today, right? Just be here. Don't be too far ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a good introduction to how all these components come together from many different fields, because that's how we are as human beings. And that's why it is an introduction to recognize that AI cannot do all that.
No.
Humans can, but not AI.
Right.
So this is a very good introduction, especially your practice, which I really admire for you taking into consideration all these different things that come together to help the person get from here to there, while other doctors and other practices focus more on what is the next drug I need to give you, or go in one direction, but not putting not connecting all the puzzle together to help the patient move forward.
That's correct.
What recommendations? In your experience, how do you see devices, social media, AI affect the brain? Give us a little peek on that.
Oh my gosh, we don't have enough time. But let's start. Let's just begin to scratch the surface, right?
Yeah.
So first, I want to say, like anything, right? We're talking like this and we're recording like this because someone invented a way for us to be able to be in totally different places. You in Paris, me in Miami,
Yes.
and have this conversation, right? So we're grateful for technology, right? We're grateful for the internet. We're grateful for AI's possibilities. But here's our challenge. The brain, is trying to adapt to all of this technology. And the challenge with that is that the adaptation creates compensation in the brain. So, for example, if I'm looking at my phone, 24/7, and I'm looking this closely to my phone, which typically most of us do, right? And my eyes, in order for me to look at this, have to converge. They have to come in this way, right? So that convergence is affecting certain networks of my brain and my brainstem. And when I look up and look away, my eyes have a different field of vision, right? And so we're not meant as human beings to be like this for 24 hours a day or 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day. These things tell us how much time we spend on it, right?
Yes.
So if we all want to look and see real time, how much time we're spending on our phones, it'd be kind of scary. So, I think there's a balance that it's important to strike. And I think we're not going to be able to get away from technology unless we actually do get away from it and get off the grid, so to speak. But I think what happens is we take something just like pharmaceuticals, right? We take something that has been intended for a particular purpose, and then all of a sudden we're adopting it to everything. And we're missing out on the actual benefit that our brain requires of not looking at things so closely, right? And using our mind and our memory to recall things and not always have to Google everything, right?
Yes.
It's all right that we have Google that we can do research. That's cool. I think it's like, it's like before was the library. We would go to the library and we'd go into the little boxes and search a topic and then find books about it, right? So now that library lives on Google or whatever search engine we're using. So it's good and it's necessary to not rely on that. It's important not to rely on that. That's the way I should say it, right? Because we see a lot of clients that have maladapted issues in their brain because of overuse of technology. Not the only thing, but it affects it. So case in point, when someone has a concussion, a hit to a head or a mild brain, injury, oftentimes what happens is their sensitivity is heightened, right? Their visual sensitivity is heightened, their hearing, right? They're much more sensitive to things. And so they'll say, I can't work on my computer. I can't look at my phone, right? I can't do these things.
Oh, wow.
And so they are unable to do any of those things because of the injury to their brain. And so what does that tell you? It tells you that there's mechanisms right there that it's self-protecting. The brain is self-protecting itself, and it's keeping the person from being able to do certain of these technological things because it doesn't serve the brain in its minimal state.
Sure.
So, right. So that tells us, okay, even if someone hasn't had an injury to their brain, should they still be utilizing this all the time? And the answer is no. And this is why wellness science is kind of coming around. And now we've got blue blocker glasses. We've got telling people how to reduce their time, right? So that just kind of scratches the surface a little bit.
Yes.
But, it's an important piece.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. I think that you gave us very good examples, very practical examples, and the connection of our brain to all these technology, the electricity, the vibration, the lights, all of that is in place. And we need to be careful how we use it. Let's use it for our benefit. Let's not get addicted to it.
Exactly.
It's not online, right?
And it's tough because things are wired inside of apps and all of that. There's a lot of science about how to keep people inside the apps, which I won't go into today.
Yes.
So addiction to technology and addiction to apps is a very real thing because they've wired in ways to keep people there, just like
absolutely
the socket, the things that we pull down. I've never been to Vegas, so I don't even know what it's called. But like the slot machines, right? It's like go up and up and up. There's science behind that movement going up that keeps a person addicted. And there's neuroscience behind that, which is fascinating.
Absolutely. It's just like in the old times, they used to say that for advertising, they had to repeat something like 6, 7 times, something like that. And then you buy the product, right?
Yes.
So it's the same methodology that they embedded into all these apps for people to go in that direction. And I believe that we need to, like you say, take advantage of the technology, but not let the technology destroy humanity, which
Yes.
is my biggest concern.
Yes.
From my perspective, I have been working with AI since NASA in 1980. And, at that time, it was not a big deal because what fuels AI is data.
Right.
So as the internet came into the world, and then the Web 2.0 was like the printing press of the 21st century.
Right.
When Web 2.0 came up, there was so much data, large data sets, and all of that. And the big change is that consumers now are content providers for that ocean. So you have everybody from around the world providing content to that huge, big database ocean.
Yes.
And you have programmers building algorithms to use that data, to recognize the data, to manipulate the data, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what AI is all about. It's about data and algorithms. People think, oh, AI, AI. It's been around for a long time. What changes
Yeah.
how much data we have.
Yes.
And we kind of have become like a Babylon of the 21st century, if you ask me. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's another conversation. But I think one of the, and I don't know, you probably have seen this as well, that AI is nothing more than a hyperlink that already exists, because the data that you have there already exists, and it can model, like we talk about the brain. It can't even come close to the brain. We can talk a little bit about that, but it can model all the other things that are related to us as a human being, to come up with the ingenuity, the intuition, the exploration that you need to create new things.
Yes.
So what it comes out from AI is what is in the database, but how did you create the future, right?
Right.
And I tell people all the time, I say, look, and I know I love your practice and your focus on everything, because before I became a computer scientist, I wanted to be a neurologist, but I didn't have the money and the time to spend in college. So I said, well, computers can probably be close to that,
Yes.
but they're not. I mean, as you know, the brain is amazing, 86 billion neurons, 100 trillion neural synapses. The amount of information it records in one day for one person is 100 terabytes for one person.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okay. The neocortex of the human brain can record 300 million patterns. So there's no computer today or in the future that can replace that.
Yeah.
And that's what I get, kind of like, I go to the conference and said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay. Be real. But a lot of people believe all of that scam, and they start getting afraid and this and that, instead of doing the right things, right? Which is not getting addicted to it.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, the brain is just one component of human being. Okay, because we include environments, we could include relationships, we include culture, and those things are constantly changing.
That's
that you
right.
cannot grab on the AI engine until later, right?
Yes.
So that is out of the question. And of course, we are constantly changing and looking. I mean, our minds are looking for social intelligence and emotional intelligence and contextual information about the environment with intuition and ingenuity.
Yeah.
You cannot build all of that on
Yes.
the AI engine.
Yes.
So my point was to say, look, it exists. It's going to transform a lot of things, but it will never transform. It will never replicate our brain or a human being. It's not possible,
Absolutely.
right? So that's kind of like um, the struggle that's happening today with this AI trend. There's many studies by MIT and Harvard. One, the latest one by MIT, lady, a PhD, that clearly explains that AI reduces brain connectivity,
Mm,
memory retention, cognitive performance, and it isolates human from other human beings.
sure.
And you know that. I mean, is your experience how many people come in and they're depressed and they're isolated because they are on all these devices and all these apps
Yes.
24 by 7?
Yes. No, we
And
do. You're right. We see that often. And when we discuss someone's lifestyle and we ask, not from a judgmental point, but just to get clarity of how they live their life apart from when we see them in the clinic. And because those are all important components, right, that are affecting someone's neurological state. And if they're coming to us to help their neurology or their mentality, right, then these are important things to consider. How do we reduce the effects of that and amplify other things that are more holistic and supportive to brain healing? Yeah, so you're right about that.
yes, and especially little kids, they are growing up with this, so they're going to
Well, they
be,
were out of the womb.
yes,
This
out of the womb.
generation out of the womb, right? They already have entertainment and as a few months old on iPads and all these different things, so they don't know any different, right? And their
Yes,
brains are being transformed and shifted, by this versus having more time with their field of vision out playing, playing outside, doing sports, or reading books, um,
yes,
creative arts, right?
yes,
Being bored, there's a lot of science now that the science of boredom is really important. We don't allow ourselves to be bored because we have a phone that entertains us all the time. So there's never downtime to just let the brain be bored. And why is it important for the brain to be bored? Because that's when the brain gets creative. It taps
interesting.
into like, oh, what else can I do? Right? Because I'm bored. I don't have a phone. I don't have a computer. I don't have people. Okay, what else can I do? I'm going to read a book. I'm going to go fiddle over here. I'm going to go plant a plant. Oh, whatever it is. We find other ways to be creative when we're not consistently entertained.
Totally.
Yeah.
That is really incredible how that is today the only entertainment in
Yes.
society. And
Yes.
like you say, reading a book, your neurons interconnect
Yes.
faster and better. And
Exactly.
the other thing too, I think that a lot of the time people are looking for answers, quick answers on the internet, and
Yeah.
they believe and they don't understand that those answers are biased. They are constructed and they're biased by the programmers
Right.
or the owner, the company that owns the programmers. But the one thing that I want to leave that is very dangerous in our society today is that all of this AI is not regulated by anybody.
Right.
So a programmer with their algorithms can change everything in a second.
Right.
And people continue to go there as the only source. It is okay to go there as a source, but validate that source with other things around
Absolutely.
it to
Absolutely.
get to the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
We often tell our clients, don't go to Dr. Google for your answers, please.
Yes, and they do.
Of course they do. And they're like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, where did you read that? Okay, well, let's like look at everything together. But listen, I'm guilty. I've been guilty of that too. It's like you're just curious, right? And then you're in a rabbit hole of like information. And then all of a
Yes,
sudden, is that helpful? Most of the time it isn't. Most of the time it's causing more anxiety, more
yes,
worry, more fear needlessly
yes.
for poor people who are trying to figure their life out or trying to figure out what's going on for them, right? So no Dr. Google, please.
Exactly. I mean, all doctors are struggling with that.
Yeah.
The patients come in and they tell them and everything they're reading in Google. Well, what are you coming here for then?
So I want to ask you, how do you see, and I'm going to tell you something exciting that we're about to launch in the practice. But how do you see the use of AI positively? Like, what do you think is a good positive angle for that?
I think it's good from the standpoint of looking at all the past experience and where those patterns can be recognized
Good.
to see all the possibilities and the potential. But possibilities and potential is not the final truth,
Right.
right?
Right.
So yes, if you can dive into the data and you can recognize patterns of something that has happened, you can say, well, there's a potential. But the danger of that is say, well, I can recognize the pattern and this is what's happening. Well, not necessarily.
Yes.
So it's a guide, is not the final answer.
I love that you said that, because that's what we believe that too, right? We believe that too. And currently, we are about to launch something it's very exciting. But currently, we are just recently got in a pair of VNG goggles.
Oh, I love those.
Yes, and we're the ones that we're using right now is by a company who's also given these same exact goggles that are being used in the International Space Station.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
you, having worked in the space program, right? I knew you would like find that delightful. And they use them in the International Space Station because those astronauts, as you well know, have to adapt to this microgravity space, the vestibular system, the brain, like everything has to like adapt. And of course, so they're doing measurements. They're doing measurements and testing to learn more about the brain and the vestibular system in space. And then, of course, utilizing them when these astronauts, of course, come back, and then doing those measurements and determining, just that readaptation to Earth's gravity. So super, super fascinating. But on our standpoint, you already know that the eye-brain connections are extremely critical and important for our view. And so this allows us to look at the eyes like micro movements. It's things you can't see with the human eye. And so what I love about this is that it's an extension of the doctor, right? When we were looking at this technology or any technology, and my husband will tell you this about me, I'm always saying nothing, and I say nothing, can replace you as a doctor, because you are the one that has the working knowledge of the human brain, the dynamics, your experience, multiple data points of your own, working for 30 some years. But a tool can be an extension of who you are as a physician, right? It can help you look more deeply or more specifically so that you can then help that patient, more dramatically, right? Because now you can see things you couldn't see before, right? Potentially. So that's really exciting. And then in the fall, we're going to be getting this vestibular chair that the University of Miami already uses for research, but we're getting one customized so that we can use it for rehab. And AI is going to be a component of that, but it doesn't tell the doctor what to do. It's looking at patterns of data points of all this information that other functional neurologists are feeding it, and then allowing that to be able to supply information that the doctor then will decide, how to follow through with the patient. But it's fascinating. But I, like you, anytime I hear that, I'm like very guarded, because I want to make sure that the art and the science of doctoring does not get overlooked, because how could it be? That's what I call authentic intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Right?
Exactly. It's real intelligence.
It's the original AI,
It is. I think that your practice with Dr. Bagnell, the combination with life coaching and all the other components that you bring to the picture, AI cannot bring that to the picture in a personalized way, which is what we talked about all the time. It's like, science without love connections, intelligence, compassion, relationships combined does not work long term.
That's right. That's exactly.
So I think that, um, you know, we need to really, I mean, the world is thirsting for grace and mercy, not AI.
Right.
All those components are very, very important. And I tell my clients all the time, use your brain, not AI.
Yeah,
AI can't compete with your brain.
that's right.
And they laugh. But yeah, it's really being wise as to
Yeah.
how you use it. That's
Yes.
the key thing. Be
Yeah.
wise about how you use it.
Yeah. I agree.
Because the end point is mercy and grace and helping people go from here to there.
Yes. Yes. I think it's important to stay active learners, right?
Yes.
I mean, always be seeking and learning, and you can utilize a tool like AI, but don't let it replace you. Don't let it do the thinking for you. That's what I hear you
Yes.
saying, and I wholeheartedly agree.
Absolutely. Well, I think what Dr. Bagnell and you have done, and how many people you have helped, and the methodologies that you use, which is holistically compassion, faith, grace, mercy, technology, neurology. I have not seen any practice that is so complete when it comes to holistic diagnosis and medicine as your practice.
Mm.
And I'm very, very grateful that I had people that I know very close to tell me how different it is and how good it is to look at the third way.
Yes. The
It's
third
not
way. That's
the
right.
third way,
Yes.
which is my next book. But I think you're already in the third way of neurologies. It's
Yes.
not this, it's not that, but there's a third way.
There is a third way. You're right. I love that. You're absolutely right. Well, I lovingly like to say, and thank you so much for your sweet and supportive words. I lovingly say that my husband and I, we absolutely love to serve together. We love this work so much, but we love people more, and we love God the most.
Amen.
Yes,
That's what
and
makes it so special.
yes, and I use computer terms, and I say, he works on the hardware and I work on the software. Um, so together, we complete, our protocol of helping our lovely clients, with whatever's going on for them that's hindering them, so that they can be they can be unhindered, and they can be free to do the things that they're meant to do in this life. And it's a joy when we see that recovery happen.
Amen. I think that's the biggest joy we take to heaven, and we collaborators of that creation. And anytime we do stuff like this, we're collaborating to make creation more beautiful and better and help one another. So it's a very, very amazing mission that you have with your husband, and I admire that very much.
No.
And from the outside, to see a picture like that is unique in today's world. So keep on moving forward.
Amen.
Don't be lane.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Marilyn. It's such an honor to know you and to know about your life and just everything that God has allowed you to experience, and everything that you have experienced is for the purpose of now, right? Because you're touching your family, your individuals in your family, but also the people you get to serve in your coaching practice. And everything that we go through is such a touchstone that allows us to be, even more useful for the kingdom and more useful for humanity. So it really is a privilege for that, for sure. It's an
Amen.
honor to know you.
Same with me. Well, have a wonderful day, a
You.
joyful weekend,
Thank you.
full of
You as well.
grace,
Amen.
and we'll see you the next time.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
come up with more stuff next time.
Oh, between you and I, we have plenty of topics we can touch on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, May. I
Thank you,
appreciate
my
it.
dear. I appreciate you.